Head over to miniaturemarket.com. We have thousands of board games at discounted prices like Rolling Heights. Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're going back to the 1920s and we're going to be building real estate. Going to be building parks and commercial buildings and factories and residential. We're going to be building some skyscrapers too, but we're going to be doing it by rolling some different meeples, pressing our luck. Today we're taking a look at Rolling Heights. This is the latest design by John D Clair, one of my favorite designers, and AEG, who always puts out really good stuff. So let me show you how the game works. I'll see you on the other side. Now when Rolling Heights, you're building a city essentially, and you're going to be having buildings out there. So are your competitors, you're going to be building within yourself, next to yourself, and sometimes next to your competitors as well. And I have the map sort of set up here for, like towards the end of the game, but I'm going to show you how this actually works because each player starts the game with 4 workers. They're going to be essentially 2 carpenters and 2 construction workers. And this has a press your luck mechanism. So at the beginning of the game, this is all you have. You're going to take these and you got to roll them in your box. Now they're going to be different ways. If they're landed like this, which is like on their head or on their side, that is like working steady, and the rest of these you'll see are laying down. They are exhausted, but you'll get to keep rolling until at least half of your workers, like this one and this one, look at this. So this one's on its side, this one's on its side, this one's on standing up. This one is working hard. Now I can decide right now, you always get at least half of them out. You can keep re-rolling until you get half of them out. Once you get half of them out, you're then going to decide, do I want to press my luck? I can press my luck and try to roll this again. But if with all the ones that are left over, if when I roll all these, there could be more than one in here, if they're all exhausted, then basically they go on strike. And half of these rounded down have to get put back in the box and put exhausted, so you don't get to use them. Or you can press your luck and try to get it, and sometimes you want to press your luck depending on what you're trying to buy that round. Now the cool thing is each of these do different things. Most of the time, the majority of the workers are going to get you goods that look like the same color. For example, wood or concrete. Now they'll get 1 if they're on their side working steady, and they'll get 2 if they're working hard. So right here, I'm going to be able to get 2 of these for the carpenter, and 1 of the concrete for each of the construction workers, and I'll be able to spend those this round. Now on both sides of the map, again, this is sort of like a game towards the end. I wanted you to see it all set up, how cool it looks. Now there's tiles. There's level 1 tiles on the right, and there's level 2 tiles on the left. These are sort of the level 1 tiles, and these show you a cost. This is any type of cube, and these things that we bought, they look like little Legos, but they're just considered cubes as well. So I can spend any one of these to get one of these buildings. I can spend all the way up to 3 cubes to get some of these newer buildings that are coming up. They're not necessarily better, but they're newer, so there's there's a little bit of a fight for those. Or on the left side, there's level 2 buildings. They start at 2. They can cost as much as 4. Now these ones are level 2s. They're harder to get to. You typically need to build a little bit of an engine before you start building those. Now, if a tile's bought that is not one of these first 2, they'll get at the end of the turn. Like let's say someone bought this one. At the end of the turn, these all slide down and a new one comes out, but each of the 2 tiles down here will get a wild. And that's good because now if anybody gets one of those, they're gonna take the wild with them they can use for any good, and that's great. So if players are buying the ones that are newer, these are gonna get more and more enticing for you to get those, because sometimes you'll just take a tile, you don't really want that tile specifically, but there's so many wilds on there, you might as well, right? So let's just say I'm gonna buy this one. I will spend 1 of these. So I'll just put this back in the supply and I'll take this and I'll place it. So let's say I want to place it here. Now if it happened to have been this type of a building, which it's not, this one is a sort of residential, I would have gotten 2 points immediately. Now I'll place it here. Now you can place it next to or adjacent to, orthogonally, any one of the other ones, I'm purple, that you've already built. You don't have to spend anything extra. But if you want to build out further away from where you are, you've got to spend an extra cube, like I just showed you, for every space further that you go away from yourself. So you can sort of build out to some of the spots on the board. For example, this part of the island hasn't really been built up yet. It's further away. It costs more to kind of build out there. But if you get some of these spots, you can get 7 points if you spend 4 additional ones, because this is prime real estate. And it's one of these types of buildings and such. So you can build further out to get these great spots, but it's going to cost you to get there. But once you're there, then it's kind of like nothing extra to kind of build next to yourself. And by the way, these maps are double-sided, and they use specific sides depending on how many players you're playing with to make sure there's the right amount of land. So each game's going to feel a little different of how the different maps connect to each other. So now look at this. I have 1. This shows me what I need. 1, 1, 1. Now this also shows you as things are getting covered, it's hard to tell how many things you have. This says I need 3 1s. So I have a 1 here. Now the other one I have is this. So this is not going to allow me to place it there. If I had had a wild, I could have spent the wild and I could have taken one of those from the supply and I could have completed this building. If you do that and you complete a building, a lot of buildings are going to give you points right away. This is a point. This allows you to get a different worker. This one's like, hey, either the blue one or the translucent clear one. So if so, you would take one of these and add it to your supply. Those are ones that you'll be able to roll next turn with your other meeples. Now, keep in mind that as you roll, when it's not your turn, or when you finish your turn, you can start rolling for next turn, getting your things ready, pressing your luck or not. So when it gets to your turn, you already have your workers ready. You just, at that point, then grab the cubes and make your decisions and go. So it keeps the game moving, so it's kind of, some of those phases are somewhat simultaneous, if you will. Now you'll want those blue and clear workers. Now the clear ones are architects, the blue ones are riveters, because many of the level 2 buildings require those types of things. And some of those will allow you to get even cooler workers. Like this one is the city planner. This one will allow you to sort of re-roll ones that are exhausted. It's kind of like a free, like, you know, and you can't bust if they're exhausted again. Or if it's standing up, you're able to take any building that's available and you don't even have to pay the cost. And that's in addition to the one that you get to buy per turn, which is really cool. Where the executive actually gives you some spending power, which is basically like currency that you can spend that turn. And by the way, any of the cubes that you don't use in a turn, they have to be spent back to the supply. So you're really encouraged to be efficient and spend as much as you can, really. These purple ones are really cool because these purple translucent ones, typically there's lots of places that will give you bonuses for these. So for example, you have one of these, you can gain a spending power or you could double your riveter cubes from that turn. So these ones will give you lots of points and some abilities as well. There's also a player board that tells you what all these things do. Like the green ones allow you to make one of your workers the next level up. If it's laying down, if it's on its side, then it goes, you know, to the next level. So you could have someone laying on their side and it goes boom right up to a stand-up one, for example. Really cool. You can it mitigates the luck. The politicians just give you points every time, which is kind of cool. So all different ways of doing things. Plus, there's also 3 public goals at the beginning of each game. These are sort of randomized, and you might have things like, hey, 2 points per column with 1 or more of your completed buildings, or score 4 per neighborhood where you had the tallest completed building, or 3 per sort of like park in the largest contiguous group of parks. But you also get 2 secret goals. These are called targets at the beginning of the game. No one else will see them but you. At the end of the game, you get to choose one of these to score, like 3 points for every 2 wilds you have at the end, or 1 point per completed building of yours that's adjacent to water. So things like that. Now I had a plan. I put this here for a reason, because on a future turn, we'll look at this building. It's mine, I could tell because it has this here. And this needs 2 of the glass and two of the concrete there. Well, I have 2 here, I only have 1 here. So let's say next turn I'm able to place this, and this completes it. Now, not only am I gonna be able to get one of these politicians and add it to my pool of workers, I'm also gonna gain 1 point per adjacent house. So here's 1, here's 1, here's 1. So I just got 3 points and got that worker. So some buildings will score off of other buildings. Now on your turn, you might, towards the end of the game, have more than 10 meeples or workers. And you get to decide which 10 you're gonna use this round. So depending on what buildings you're gonna try to go to, or which ones you're gonna try to buy and then place cubes on, or which ones you haven't completed yet that you wanna complete, you'll pick the workers that you want to do that. Usually you're picking the more powerful ones towards the end, but you get 10 of these to choose and roll and continue to doing again, at least half, and then possibly press your luck or not. And that's really the crux of the game. And some of the buildings get really big. Look at this one. This one was 8 tall up here for the steel there and had a lot of glass. This one got me 20 points and one of those translucent purples. And when I roll the purples, I can gain 2 if they're working steady, or 3 points if they're working hard. So that's pretty much the crux of the game. You're going to basically be rolling your workers, using them, spending the cubes, buying up to 1 plot of land per game, per turn, and then trying to build up the map. And that player aid board at the top of the map also doubles as a score tract as well. And you'll keep playing until one of the color cubes has run out. At that point, you'll bring in some orange miscellaneous cubes that will help you finish up the last round so everyone has equal amount of turns. And then you'll score all of the public and private goals, and whoever has the most points at the end is the winner. So let's look at some more of these buildings. Like this one needs a bunch of concrete, right? But if you fill this up, you're gonna get 2 points, and you're gonna get an architect, and you're gonna get a politician. This one's sort of similar, 2, 1, and 3 of those. It's safety chemicals, 2 points, and those 2 workers. Where this one, it needs a concrete and 2 steel, and it's going to get you a city planner and 3. So you basically work up different strategies. All right, now before I get to my final thoughts, I want to let you know that if you like my content, there's now ways to get bonus content like first impression videos well before a review will come out, or for many games I don't even end up reviewing. You can even vote for which games get reviewed on the channel. You can also see me opening up packages and getting content earlier than everyone else. Well, if you like that, you can check it out at patreon.com/GameBoyGeek. All right, well, first thing, of course, let's just talk about the gimmick of the rolling meeples. That's what's going to get this game a lot of attention, other than also just being a John D Clair game. It is a gimmick, but it works. And so I don't know if that actually constitutes as being a gimmick, because I think a gimmick is something that's supposed to sort of like be a hook, but then in the end, it's not really that good. In this case, some might call it a gimmick, but I think it works quite good. The fact that you even had this idea of let's roll these meeples, how they land, I mean, the fact that it works and the way that he designed around like, hey, you got to at least get half of them, right, before you can try to push your luck and bust. And it's really interesting. It really does work. Like, it felt like enough times during the game, if I press my luck, I will bust a decent amount of time. Of course, the more that I'm rolling, less chances I am going to bust, because as long as I get one more, I'm good. But if I do bust, I got rid of half rounded down. The punishment feels like it hurts, but it doesn't feel like you're getting totally crushed because you also get a wild. And so, I don't know, I like it. I think it works really well. It's part of what makes this game very unique. It might also be what makes some people roll their eyes when they see this, right? Some serious strategy people, but I think it works really well. It's way more fun than just rolling dice. It's very unique and it works, so I like that. This game has got engine building, which I like, because you're building up this engine, you're getting these things, you're getting these different workers, getting these different worker types, and that's allowing you to now craft these buildings, and that's allowing you to give you the strategy down this way, and it's like a little city building, engine building game, and I like that aspect of it. Again, you can only build up to 10 workers at once. You got to decide which ones to take, which is also interesting because you're trying to figure out what different points of the game and which buildings are available, which ones you're going to use that turn. You can be like, oh, I don't need the construction worker this time. But later on in the game, well, I'm going to bring them back in because there's one building that I really need to get. I need to get it completed next to another building. It only needs 2 concrete. I'll bring them back in because I can complete that quick, which will help me with another goal. It's really cool in that way. The special meeples, most of them give you 1 or 2 resources of that one's type. It's pretty straightforward. But the special ones are really cool, especially the pink one that allows you to get, if it's standing up, it allows you to get any building anywhere. And that's in addition to your normal building buy. And you can place it anywhere on the map. You don't have to spend the cubes to go further out. Now, if it's a premier real estate spot, you still have to spend the extra cubes. But that's a really cool one. Even the green one, allowing you to like upgrade a meeple, 1 or 2 levels. That's awesome. The purple ones giving you all sorts of different ways. The last game I just played, the purple ones gave me 1 or 2 points if the clear meeples, the architects were standing straight up, if they were working hard. So I built an engine and my goal was 3 points per purple one that I had at the end of the game. So I got a bunch of purples, I had 3 purples, and I had like 4 glass ones, architects. And I was like milking a bunch of points, but also being able to use that architect for it. But if the purple was not standing up, it wasn't great. But it's really cool. You can just interact with all these different types of ones. The ones that give you the spending power, the ones that give you the straight points. I like it. There's a good balance of straightforward ones, and then the better ones that you get in the level 2 tiles. I like the interactions of the placements with not only your own buildings, like some of them score specifically for, hey, gets 1 point for every adjacent such and such building. And it doesn't have to be your building. It could be someone else's building. That's kind of cool. But also interactions of where you're placing them on the map, spending the extra cubes to get the points right away when you place them. Pretty interesting. I like that you can interact with your own, set up your own little engine, but you can also get up in other people's grills too. I like that you can box others in, but it's sort of like Power Grid, right? Where like if you box somebody in, it's not the end of the world. It's going to cost them more to move through you and over there. Same thing here. And depending on how the neighborhoods are always different each game because of the randomness of them, you could start like pushing towards somebody else in this like landlocked area, make them be like, oh crap, now I gotta like spend 1 cube for each one that's adjacent to mine to get away from you and get somewhere else. I like that aspect. It brings like a little bit of in your face aspect to this. Now with that being said, it's definitely feels different with the different player counts. So with 2 players, because you use different sides of the boards, different amount of sides of each of the boards depending on the player count. Now with the 2-player count, you're going to have roughly, like 24-ish land spaces per person, generally speaking, right? But when you go to 3-player, depending on which ones are flipped, you're down to like, I think it was like 18. And then if you go down to 4 players, you're down to like 16. So you'll have less and less land areas per player with this, which means if you're the type of person that likes more open, breezy, less confrontational ones, 2 players is going to be your favorite player count here, I think. You'll be able to do your own thing. You could possibly get each other's way, but it's not going to overtake your game. 4-player, it's going to be a knife fight because there's just less land types. Now, granted, 16 per player on average, it's still enough to get a bunch of your buildings out and run your engine, right? But you're going to have a lot more interaction with each other. So if you want a more confrontational game, a lot more interaction with being blocked and this and that, or possibly scoring out over other players, then you're probably going to like the 4-player game the best. I like that you have the public goals of the advertising, and then you have the private goals of those target goals. I like it. And those are always different each game, gives you different strategies. It's just going to give you a different focus, and all the buildings come out different, and that's going to be different. The modular board setup, lots of different replayability, because not only are you using the certain amount of A and B sides, you're also shuffling them, and then you can rotate them, right, randomly. So they don't all have to face the same icon the same way. So you really have a ton of replayability of how the map looks as well. I like how the game keeps moving, how you're rolling your workers and pressing your luck on, like after your turn's done. So by the time it comes back around to you, you're just taking your action, right? So you could roll your things, you do this thing, you could even grab some of the cubes that you're gonna be getting, kind of put it there. You might shield it from other players that don't know exactly what you're gonna have. But it keeps it moving, because as soon as I'm done, the next player's taking their actions. Next player's taking their actions. Next player's taking their actions. I'm taking my action, right? And so, but in between those, you're rolling and doing your thing, and it just makes the game move. So it's got a good clip there. I like the prime real estate spots that give you more points on the water and things like that, but you got to pay more to do that. I like that when you're going further away, you can spend, but some of the meeples allow you to give you spending power. I don't often play games solo. I had the rare chance to play this solo. I thought it worked well. The solo person gets stronger as the game goes on, takes more turns in between yours, and it worked really well. So if you like solo games, I think it works fine. On the negative side of things, placing cubes on the tall towers, sometimes if you have one that has like 5 and 7 and this and that, sometimes you might knock them over, right? And especially if it's in the middle of the board, you're gonna knock that over, might knock some other ones over, you're gonna try to put them up, and you might knock some other things over. It's not gonna happen all the time. It's only gonna happen on the really tall buildings that are like 5 or higher, and you just gotta be a little careful. I have kind of big fingers, so I tend to knock them over more than most. It can be a bit of a pain there, but it doesn't happen that often, but it is a negative. I don't have a lot of negatives to say about this game, so that's one of the things. You can be knocking over cubes and things like that. The other thing is, towards the end of the game, I'd say the last quarter of the game, there's a lot going on the board. There's a lot of things to think about, a lot of different building choices, a lot of different meeple choices to put in, a lot of different stuff to think about. Which ones are completed, which ones are not, looking at all this, looking at how much you need, and it can be a little AP inducive towards the last quarter of the game, where it really might take you a while to think about what you want to do, and it does slow the game down a little bit. But it is the end of the game, and there's lots of decisions here. For as light as the game is, there's a ton of decisions, but it can drag out a little bit at the end there, especially if you have someone that has AP. But overall, I thoroughly enjoyed this game. I think it's a fresh take on the press your luck with the meeples, engine building, different goals, replayability is off the charts. I think if you like city building, engine building, completing goals, doing things like that, giving yourselves different strategies every time you play, lots of replayability, if you like that, I think this is going to be one you like. And that has been Rolling Heights. This has been a Game Boy Geek, breaking down barriers, growing relationships through board games, by helping you on the next one you love. Game Toppers not only transforms your existing table into a high-quality gaming solution, but they now offer full leg kits and dining cover solutions for the full table application. Paired with over 20 styles of thematic game mats in 11 different sizes from notable board game artists like Vincent Dutray, collapsible cup holders, and real cool accessories, experience what thousands of other gamers enjoy by upgrading every game you play with a Game Topper system. Save hundreds of dollars on Game Topper package deals that are in stock now for immediate shipping at GameToppersLLC.com or click the link below.